Well, Jan St-Pierre is a counter-terrorism and security consultant, and he joins us now from Berlin to discuss this in more detail. Thanks very much for being with us here on France 24 this morning, Monsieur St-Pierre. We heard from one resident there that they never thought this was something which would happen here in Munich. But this is something which is happening increasingly regularly. This is the third attack on civilians in Western Europe in 8 days. What's your reaction to this surge in violence, really, against civilians?
Well, first of all, good morning. Thank you for having me. For me, the first thought is not necessarily attacks on Westerners, but rather that since October of 2015, this is the seventh, not a lone wolf attack, but a single attacker or a lone attacker of this type in Germany. You may recall the attack on the now current mayor of Cologne, the attack, yes, in Würzburg on Monday. Yesterday, prior to that, there was another knife attack in Grafing in April. So it's the seventh of such attacks, and this is, for me, is the real disturbing tendency in Germany, is that regardless of the political spectrum, regardless of the motivations, is that this really is now a regular occurrence, and it's been hitting small towns, large towns, and this is a legitimate concern now that people have to wonder, are we going to be hit by a single attacker?
Well, is this, would you say, a German phenomenon, given there have been 7 attacks of this type in Germany? And if so, is there any common thread which runs between them?
I wouldn't say it's a specifically German phenomenon, but I think it does represent quite well the polarization of politics and the mood and a lot of frustration. The motivations were quite different. Some were religious attacks, some were against migration, some, the spectrum is so wide. However, the common thread is a level of frustration, is a desire to express grievances in a very violent way. And I think that's embodied in different types of attacks and rioting in the, other Western countries in Europe or in North America. And I think this is really a proper symptom and a full-fledged symptom of, yes, the very high political and social tensions that is afflicting Western Europe and North America right now.
Would you say there is any link with the German government's almost open door policy, welcoming in up to 1 million refugees and migrants to this level of frustration?
Some of the attacks were directly related to that, absolutely. So that plays a role. I think some parties and movements that like to stir the pot a bit in that direction and go for a more populist approach definitely does not help. And all these factors combined, we're reaching a point where really, yes, for many, the only way to express that frustration is by violence. And one very important note is that we hear in one of the audio recordings yesterday where the shooter says, "But I'm born here. I'm German." And this feeling that saying, "But I'm actually one of you, but you're not accepting me," also relates to the social divisions that are now that have now become quite obvious in Germany since the refugee policy has become so open.
The authorities are saying they still have no motive for this attack. They still have no evidence of an Islamist element, but many on social media are already claiming this is an act of terror. Are we being too quick to jump to the idea that this could be a terrorist attack, or is this something which could still be possible in your view?
It's still possible, but I think the fact that we're reacting quickly to this has to do with exactly the last 18 to 24 months, is that terrorist attacks have occurred so often in different European countries in various ways. And I think, especially if you take the context of Germany, that where one occurred on Monday, it's really, something happens. The first reaction is to think, this could be terrorism, rather than to say, than to see the terrorism as the exception. We almost see it as a norm now, and it's unfortunately become a reflex. So to have a more rational approach to it is become quite difficult.
And so how do you think the German government should be responding here? How do they go about protecting people given the regular occurrence of these violent attacks that we're starting to see?
At the end of the 1990s and early 2000s, Germany also went, although not quite as extreme, a wave of mass shooters in Erfurt, for example, in different areas. And they responded by, first of all, maintaining their policy in terms of counter-terrorism or gun violence. They strengthened the gun laws, but also they started, educating teachers to say, well, if you spot early signs of these early signs, these symptoms, please report that person, and the same thing in the workplace. So it was a very socially oriented policy, and I would expect the same to occur in the days and the months ahead, because it worked very effectively back then. And right now, I think everybody's so aware because of the issue of terrorism that everybody will be indeed ready to jump on board for such an approach.
Jan St-Pierre, we'll have to leave it there, but thank you so much for sharing your views with us here on France 24 this morning. That was Jan St-Pierre, counter-terrorism and security consultant based in Berlin.